JB here. November 11th, 2024, about 3:26 on this fine Monday. Talk really quick about the market, some of the names I'm looking at, go from there. Not actually going to talk about the S&P today. Take a look. Futures were up to start today, continuation from last week's massive rally. And then the S&P and NASDAQ kind of gave back those gains, just slightly in the red, but small caps are continuing to muster on. Uh, so good sign there. US dollar stronger. And then, of course, the big story now is cryptocurrency. It's funny how it all works out when it's 800, it was $200 back when I first started to follow. It was less than that. And then 800 and 2,800. And back then, everybody was so skeptical of it that no one wanted to touch it, right? And they would all call it, for drug dealers, a scam, blah, blah, whatever. Then all these other cryptocurrencies came out. So the moral of the story is, as it now you start looking on FinTwit and it's like, oh, it's $87,000. Now it's worth $2 million. It's going to 2 million, and everybody thinks it's the next best, the next best thing. Meanwhile, 2013, those probably same people were saying it was horrible. So, not saying here or there, just it's similar to some stocks. I mean, I could go on rants forever about some of the names I've been in and traded, I've been bullish on over the years that uh, folks completely dismissed. I mean, Netflix was one of them, Amazon, long time ago. There were so many skeptics out there, and then once eventually I mean, Tesla's the best example. Once they get out of the point where hey, they're not going to be bankrupt or lose competitors or whatever, then all of a sudden everybody's bullish. Oh, it's a $500 stock, it's going to 700. It's 700, it's going to 1,000. So I'm not saying the same here with cryptocurrency. Maybe we get some follow through this week. After the election, it seems like almost like I wouldn't call it a relief rally, but now folks are focused on some things that might have more upside. So where the top is, I mean, maybe it heads towards that 100,000 handle Bitcoin. I don't know. But when you see speculation on things like that, it kind of bodes well for the market, right? Uh, so that's that. We'll see how that all plays out. But the thing to me, the stronger US dollar today, and then small caps, some continuation up 1.4% as well, 1.5% as I'm speaking here. So continued chop in the mega caps and big cap S&P, NASDAQ, and continued rally on small caps. I think it would be a great situation. And then at some point, then S&P can start to head back, and put back in the rally mode. So that's the overall market. So just individual names and a lot of trades I did. Well, first I'll really quickly, since I was talking about crypto, I'll talk about gold. And if you followed the blog and been in part of the community or even seen some of my tweets over the years, I'm not a gold bug, and I always say it doesn't mean it shouldn't be part of a portfolio, whatever. Number one, I'm not a registered investment advisor. So by all means, find one and maybe they can come out with some kind of portfolio allocation. And typically gold might be part of that, right? But to me, I always look at things that are going to get disrupted, and I'm still waiting on Visa and MasterCard and some of these others, but other sectors have been. But when I look at gold, and gold's been a store of value for centuries, right? It's so used to barter, used for goods, whatever. And people worried about inflation or some kind of black swan event where a government collapse or a currency devaluation to the point where you have hyperinflation. We've seen some of those situations in South America. You want to be holding gold, right? Because that's a store of value. You know that they can't print more gold. They can't devalue it. The value of gold is, number one, is the perception of people, right? That's and number two, it's that you can't print more. It's a finite resource. So yeah, I mean, I could go on rants on Peter Schiff for a while. I try not to talk bad about folks, right? That doesn't do anybody good, right? But the thing that I get with Peter Schiff is Peter Schiff goes on, and the thing that got me was back in like 2013 when I think gold was maybe it's $1,300. He says it's going to 10,000 in like 2 years, and he like argued with everybody. And meanwhile, gold, if you look, of course it's up. I mean, if it was $1,400 back in, I don't know, it was $800 2008 during the crisis. So, I mean, on annual rate. I mean, it's what 12, 14%, 12, 14%, especially with 30% gains this year. But he is the way he goes about his thing. He has his website and his business is called Peter Schiff Gold. So his vested interest is for gold to go up, right? It's not Peter Schiff Gold. He does well whether gold goes up or down. No, people are going to invest in gold if they think it's going to go up in value, right? If there's a value proposition to hold gold, that's what his job is his business does well when that happens, right? So he'll go on and tout it, and it'd be funny. He goes on FinTwit, and you'll have data come out pointing to deflation. He's like, "Oh, that's bullish gold," and he'll lay out some kind of example, and then he'll go on the flip sides, and there'll be then the next month inflation comes above expectation. Oh, inflation, that's good for gold. So he's long gold. He wants it to go higher, and then whatever narrative he needs to spin to back that case, that's what he does. I hate to say it, whatever. And I think on Friday I talked about quote the Raven was the person who's negative Tesla, big, and I would say negative Tesla, like because the people who are negative Tesla, they're not bearish Tesla. They are straight out calling fraud, calling all these, I mean, calling everything. I remember back in the day when the first the driverless cars they were testing out in California, and some guy in his car like videotaped it and almost got into an accident with the car, and then broke into the facilities to follow the car or whatever, and then he got arrested or they filed charges against him, and the Bears created a like almost like a GoFundMe for him, so like to support this act, which I get it. Like if you're bearish the name and you have this 100% conviction, but there's lines that they cross. But anyway, so that's kind of my thing on gold. So I'm not saying that you know there's not a value to it, but I've talked about it for a while. And some of the things that I looked at was that the store of value. So when you look at cryptocurrency and there's other stores of value, that it's like it almost takes away some of its luster. So I mean, and to me, it doesn't pay a dividend and all that stuff. But to me, I've been wrong, right? But I've been right sometimes too on gold. I think there's an opportunity here, especially as the hype with crypto picks up. People will look at gold and say, "Hey, maybe I need to rebalance my portfolio," right? Things like that. So I think all those things together, at some point, and it's up 30%. You start looking at the chart. Uh, it's been in an uptrend since March. Let's see if I can pull the chart, and I think I posted it here. uh, you can see the support resistance. So nice trend line. If it breaks that trend line, I think it heads down to back to 2,500 before the year is out. So, uh, yeah, so that's my little rant on gold. So I got some GLD puts into December. I was actually looking at GLL calls. Um, we'll have to see how that plays out too. If I mean, GLL was like $30 a couple months ago or 6 months ago. It won't take much for that to really start to take off as well. And then the other catalyst too is the strong U.S. dollar. I mean, the dollar's been on a tear recently, so they used to always that would be the correlation. People look and say, "Oh, gold's down 2%." Oh, because the stronger U.S. dollar is weighing on gold. But it seems like that kind of correlation has disappeared as well. Maybe it comes in vogue. We'll see. All right, so that's gold. All right, so now individual names. I talked about this morning. TravelZoo got upgraded by, well, not upgraded, a price target upgrade from Ascendian Capital. I've never really even heard of these folks, and you know, TravelZoo a couple months ago was a $100 million company, so now it's $240 million market cap. So it's not one of the most covered names to begin with because it's not a heavyweight in the travel sector, right? And that's one of the reasons why I like the name, because it's under the radar. A lot of people don't follow it. A lot of people don't know what's going on with it. They don't know its fundamentals. They don't know they've been buying back 3 million shares over the last 2 years, that they've just authorized another million share buyback, that you have a new 5% beneficial owner that just announced their stake back at the end of October. They have a new premium plan that they're rolling up to all members, $40 a year, starts on January 1st. So any of the folks who've been used to do deals with TravelZoo would get the back end money from the advertisers, from the companies and the advertisers. Now, not only will that still happen, but now in order to get some of the deals, you'll have to be a member, and it's $40 a year. So what's going to happen? It's going to force people, not only when they get the deal, and a lot of the deals they have are $1,000, $1,200 deals, $800 deals, travel deals like that. $40 is like, it's like paying tax, right? It's not even a big deal. So now you have that membership, and then it's a vested interest for that person to continue to use the site. They have 30 million active users, or a little more than 30 million. They've planned estimation. I talked about that Argus note that came out November 1st. If they just convert 3% of those this year, that's an extra nearly 36 million dollars in revenue. I guess 3% times 3% of 30 million is 900,000 folks. At $40, that's $960,000 in incremental revenue. That's high margin revenue. You look at a company, it's throwing out $5 million in free cash last quarter. You do that over the that's $20 million in free cash over a year. It was doing $82 million in revenue. So that's, I mean, it's pretty impressive profile, and you look at it, it's a $200 million company, but if you multiply those by 10 and then do the fundamentals. And I'm just saying it as a big picture. And then you looked at that and say, wow, they're throwing off 50 million. The company's doing $800 million in revenues. I mean, that's pretty impressive, right? So now that's why I like the name. I think it's under the radar. So now you see the second analyst upgrading the price target. You have that insider beneficial owner. And I think it heads over 20 before the week is out. I'll continue to hold the rest of the, well, I'm going to look to lock my 1750s in at some point. They're $2 or around there. Spreads wide, so it might be tough to get out right now, but I'll try in the next day or two. And then I still have the November 20s. And then I'll look for December or March strikes to play for that breakout, because I think it's on. I probably more into next year, because you have to think the market would start pricing some of that in. Comes to some folks' attention, starts hitting highs. Last time this was, I think, 1860 was in 2009. I'm trying. I got to go back and look at the exact dates. The last time the stock hit these levels. All right, so that's TravelZoo. Enough from that rant. So Square, I put it on the watch list this morning. It's one of those names that has that crypto spin too with Bitcoin. And sometimes that kind of gets left behind. People just think it's the processing transaction and a platform for businesses, but it has that crypto spin. And Jack Dorsey has mentioned time and time again around mining and things like that. So uh, so with block, and I call it Square. I apologize. For some reason I can't get it out of my head. So I see SQ. I'm going to probably continue to call it Square until it's either, until I'm done trading. 50 years from now. But if you take a look at its earnings Friday, you had that sell off. Then it reversed again. It almost looked like it was going red to green. And then so I was looking over the weekend, and then you have all the headlines around crypto. I'm like, Square's going to run today. So I put it on the watch list. And then at the open, Square options weren't available, similar to what was happening with, I don't know, was Dell last week. The option market didn't open for the first like 3 or 4 minutes. So I'm waiting. And then finally it opened. I think it was at 76. Went and got those 80 weeklies. The spreads were wide. So unfortunately, because the market has been open for a couple minutes, the spreads were wide at the open. I kind of just finagled some orders and then finally got filled. And then within a matter, it was, I don't even have the chart up here, do I? All right. Yeah, about 9:40 it was 77, and then the rest is history. And then by the time I hit 10:30, it was $82. So was able to lock some of the calls in for some nice gains. Uh, as much as I want to add some, I'll probably wait and I'll continue to hold. So I sold some of the 80s, uh, to cover costs and some profits, so nearly 400%. Then some more. A little bit after for nearly 600%. I'll probably just hold the rest into tomorrow. The thing is, it could be sensitive. So if there's at some point there's going to be a pull in Bitcoin and the crypto space, we'll have some pull, and then all the bears will be out in force. Oh yeah, we told you. Who knows when that happens? But if it does, some of these names might be sensitive to those moves. So I don't want to be in a spot where we have a huge gap down. I'll just hold what I have into the overnight, and then maybe we get a gap into the 85s or so on block, which it's been I've been waiting for it. So thankfully it happened when I could have got the calls last week, but I don't think I missed too much of the morning run, which was nice to have. All right, so that's Square. Lemonade, I mean, just monster. People talk about, use the phrase taking the stairs up on a stock and then it takes the elevator down. I mean, just take a look at Lemonade, just monster. I mean, he has a huge short interest. You had that analyst downgrade last Thursday that kind of took the wind out of the sails of the stock after the squeeze the day before. And then some consolidation Friday, and then just off to the races. I mean, it's up 21% today. I talked about why I like Lemonade last week is some of the regulation, right? And one of the more heavily regulated sectors, banks obviously, but then insurers it's a very heavily regulated sector. So is that going to remove some of the overhang on some of these names? And you see Goosehead, I was looking before, it's $120. Where is it? $118. Goosehead. GSHD is the ticker was one of my top 5 stocks a couple years ago. That's a great story. Unfortunately, I missed out on that one, but I'm looking at Lemonade, and I closed the last of my November strikes in. I still have the Decembers. I locked some of those in. Does it do an overshoot scenario? I mean, does it get into the 40s and you start looking at the longer term chart? I'm not going to hold all my calls for that possible outcome, but with that huge short interest, maybe it unravels some more, especially into the end of the year. If you have someone who's wants to get their books to look right, maybe they close that out just to get that off it. I don't know, but certainly could do some overshoot. So I'll continue to hold the Decembers. Uh, but a nice trade, just monster squeeze. Love to see that one. All right, so that's lemonade. I talked about gold. Oh, SE reports after the reports earnings tomorrow morning. I was looking at the 110s, and some of the calls actually didn't. They were up like 50%, with stock only up 40%. Let's see here. How much are the 110s now? Oh, okay, yeah. Now they're up 67%. They were. I was coming into today. The 110 weeklies were like 80 by a dollar. So now you see the stock is up 4.3%. So that's, I guess, most of the reason why the premiums have really got jacked on here. But I was looking at 125s maybe, but I'll just wait till tomorrow. Uh, Still love the story. I'm trying to look at risk reward. So I think maybe it trades, if it does trade up to 110. That's kind of my thought. If it has a nice beat and raise, that, I mean, the 110s might be a couple bags. And that maybe that's not worth the risk right now for me. So and then I'm like, do I 120 weeklies? I don't know. So I'm just probably gonna sit on my hands, but really like that story. Who else reports? Oh yeah, who just put Shopify, right? Trying to think of some of the other names reporting tomorrow. Is it tomorrow? Um, anyway, all right. So that's that. Peloton disappointing. It was all the way 9:30 in the pre-market. Then it just melted. I don't know if it was, and considering small caps are up today, I'm kind of surprised, but um, not going to add anything more to that position just yet. I'll just sit on my hands. I'm trying to think of some of these other names. I've been looking. Look at Chewy's up nearly 10% today. Um, yeah, pretty monster. What was I had something else I was gonna. I'm trying to think of what I was gonna say about Tesla, and I keep forgetting. Uh, Yeah, but that's it. Nice moves today. We have CPI data Wednesday, so I don't know how much that would move markets. If it's got to be a huge surprise, in my opinion, whether it's seriously cooler than expected or seriously hotter than expected to really move things, because I think that's kind of like the back burner right now, and they'll find some other data point or catalyst that'll move markets. For now, I think inflation's off the table. Well, not off the table, but I don't think it's as important. There were some Fed speakers today, and I think Powell's supposed to speak somewhere on Thursday. But considering he just spoke uh, last Thursday, I don't know that his comments would do anything. Um, oh, some other names. So I mean, Micron. I'm just nothing. I mean, the Nasdaq's off a little bit. A lot of these semis are down today. I don't know if that's just profit taking, but MU's down nearly 3%. It's going to take a huge move. I mean, that 150 handle's a big spot, but depending on what it does this week, I'll certainly be watching for other opportunities for upside. Dell, another strong open. It was all the way up to 139 right after the open, and then does its typical, actually hit 140.75, excuse me, and did its typical reversal. So it's in here at 138. I'll probably just sit on my hands on that one too. I'm not going to add anything just yet. The 145s that I had last week that I sold the last on, I think I sold the last like 87. They're 74 by 80. So and not only the 74 by 80, you would have had to they were substantially less heading into this week because they're up 128%. So they probably closed at like 30 cents. Excuse me, 30 cents. Oh, tomorrow, Kava. Oh, Kava's gonna be interesting. Take a look at Kava and sweet cream. So I mean, Kava's almost up at 150 bucks. Call it the mini Chipotle. Uh, Impressive. And any way you look at those numbers for Kava, it's like when Chipotle went on major tears, they were like their cash machine, billions of dollars in cash, buybacks, opening locations using their own cash, no debt. I haven't really looked at Kava recently, but when it was in the 80s, I had some calls. I was looking, I'm like, wow, this is getting to the point of being pretty overvalued. But maybe the growth is gonna eclipse that. And then you have that sweet green, right? There it is at 39.40. Did they just have earnings? I think they did, right? That one reversed red to green. I almost looked to get some. Was that last week? Yeah, last Friday. That's an interesting story, right? I mean, you look, it's number one, it's a niche category. And then number two, they have some possible internet intellectual property in regards to their automated salad making machines. I, I don't know. To me, when you look at Chipotle, right? So eventually, and I don't know if you've seen those videos where they have folks, machines making your burrito. I don't know. Me, there's two sides to that, and sometimes it's like the human element, right? It's like uh, if you went to if you went to a bar, right, and people sit at their bar and they want their bartender there. They don't want like the machine like making The drink, I don't know. So it takes some of that human element away. And I'm not saying it's similar with Chipotle, but sometimes like I don't want a machine making my burrito. If I do, then I don't know. So, but Sweet Green supposedly has a uh, some I don't even know what it's valued at that makes the salads. And the other thing with Chipotle, right? So someone did a study and they went to all the New York City, one of these firms, and went to all the New York City Chipotles. And gosh, that's a great. I would love to be part of that study. You can sign me up, and I'll go to all the Chipotles. And they like asked for the same burrito at each place, and they got like a variance of 15 or 20% of the actual weight of the burrito and the ingredients, right? Ah, so yeah, I mean, you look on one side as, hey, you might get gypped, so it's good to have them someone that's going to get you the right quantities on the burrito and fair. Or on the other side, you might get the 20% more ingredients. So, all right, rants for other days. But certainly gonna be interesting to see what Kava does. Um, yeah, that's it. Shopify probably heads over $100, right? Um, I don't know how if that's going to have any impact on Square or what have you, or maybe even on Wix. All right, folks, that's it. We have about 13 minutes to the close. I think this is one of my longer rants. Let's have a great afternoon. I'll be back rock and roll.